Sometimes, something can happen in the pro wrestling world that is so shocking, so violent, so upsetting that children of all ages must cover their eyes and ears in fright. This is not one of those times. Look, Ryan and I interviewed David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the Clown in the Terrifier films, and Bupkis. David is an absolute delight, and there are just more curse words than usual in this episode, but that's mostly bleeped. And there's some discussion of some gnarly stuff from the movies, but plenty of wrestling talk as well. It's a great episode. We are so happy that David joined us, and we hope you like it. Just wanted to give you a little heads up.
The following podcast is scheduled for one recording with no time limit. Making their way down to somewhere in the ring, Andrew Sanford and Ryan Sprague.
There it is, guys. We made our entrance, and you will notice someone with us. No, that is not DOINK the Clown. That is Art the Clown. That's right. With us today is David Howard Thornton. You know him as Art the Clown from Terrifier. We're going to talk all about the franchise, how he got into it, and what comparisons can be made with pro wrestling and what you're doing, Dave. So welcome, Somewhere in the Ring.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. It's great to be here.
And to be fair, there may be some people out there who know him as Art the Clown from Bupkis. So there are other.
That is true.
Yep, there is. Yeah. So come on.
I was a hallucination at one point. So there you go.
Wow. Good dig, Andrew. Yeah. That was a good one, man.
That was good.
Dave, let's talk briefly about how you and I know each other. Perhaps PTSD wise, but let's give the origin story of how you and I guess, first met. We met in Times Square at Bubba Gump.
Bubba Gump Shrimp Company.
Oh man,
did they ever make you guys do the accent, or was that like?
People expected me to do it all because I was actually from Alabama too. So they're like, "Oh, can you do Force?" I'm like, "Yes, I can do Force."
He made us look so bad, Andrew. He made us look so lazy. I will say this: I was new to waiting tables. I'd never done it in my life, but I was, like Dave, an actor in New York. Just trying to make it, and that's where we both landed. That's where we both met, and somehow, some way, I got out. I should say. Involuntarily got out of that job.
I think it was that kind of led the way for everybody to start leaving.
Yes,
because he's just like,
we left in mass.
Yeah, we're done.
To hear how terrible it is does make me feel a little bad that I absolutely had a phone interview there at one point and was not hired. So
don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. That place was insane.
And somehow it's still open, Dave. I
know. And there are some people that still work there that were there when we were there.
Sure.
I don't, because we had a reunion. We had a reunion there. I think it was last year or the year before that. A bunch of us got together, and all of us have gone off and done our own things. Like that was the crazy thing about going around the table. Everyone's like, "Yeah, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this." And it's like, and then like, "Oh yeah, this person's still working here." Oh.
Hey, good on him. And honestly, the food was pretty darn good.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, the Cajun shrimp. Oh my God, the Cajun shrimp with that garlic bread that you could dip in there. I don't know how many times when people would not finish that at their table, if they left like a whole piece of garlic bread, I would just take that. I would just go in the back of the kitchen, like scarf it down, and hope like Suzanne did not see me because she was like, "What are you doing?"
Not breaking any health code violations.
At all. Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
Not once.
Such an Art the Clown thing to do, though.
That's so true.
I'm just glad that you said that before I said that. Because I was like, Andrew, don't say it. I'm sure you hear stuff like that all the time.
That stuff was so because they would not feed us. We had to buy our own food there.
Ugh.
It's like that they would give us a discount, but all of us would buy it from like the kids menu because that was the cheapest way because we weren't making any money at this place. It was insane. We would be there for 8+ hours, and we would. I would be happy if I I would be ecstatic if I ever walked out of there with $100 in my pocket at the end of the night.
Oh man, I was losing money. Trust me, because I was buying the food and not making any tips at all. But hey, man, we made it through. We somehow survived, and and look at what's happened. Like, I now have a wrestling podcast, a UFO podcast. You are becoming, I should say, one of the most iconic killer clowns in horror history. So we will get to that. But before we do that, man, tell us a little about your time acting, if you don't mind. How did you get into acting? I know you played the Grinch at one point, which I think will bleed into our conversation of Art to Clown a little bit. But
I did that
tell us a little about acting.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I started acting doing church theater. It's like, when you think about what I do now, it's like, I'm like, yeah. Especially once you see a Terrifier 3, you're going to be like, oh, wow, this has really come full circle.
Never allowed back.
No. I was doing plays about Jesus, like Moses and the Freedom Fanatics.
That's awesome, man.
And Oh Jonah is just like with our kids' choir and stuff like that. So it was the whole type of theater where you step forward, you say your line, and you step back in line, and you wait that like 10 seconds before the next kid goes, oh yeah, I gotta talk now. Okay. And then look in the wings, you're like, I forgot my line. Yeah. It's like, say, thank you, Jesus. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Oh, you say it to the. Oh boy, that was rough times. Humble beginnings.
In doubt, when in doubt, say thank you, Jesus.
I do that anytime I can't think of something to say. So that's
thank you,
easy.
Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus.
So what? I guess what brought you to New York? And tell us a little about your time there. I would assume auditioning and landing some roles, and walk us through that.
I mean, what brought me there is, oddly enough, I didn't get a degree in theater. I got a degree in elementary education. So I was a school teacher. I was in my internship in the schools, and I was like, I don't like this. It was right when like Bush started implementing No Child Left Behind. It was like a year after my mom died. And so there was a lot going on in my life at the time. And I come from 4 generations of teachers too. So I know how it used to be in the classroom and how children were taught and what worked. And then this stuff was implemented. I'm like, oh, these people don't know what the they're talking about. They don't know. They're taking away all the power from the teachers. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to be so miserable. And this was in Alabama. And so I felt like I was handcuffed. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I was miserable because I went through a lot of stuff at that point in my life too. I had lost in a month's time going in to do my internship. I lost my dog, my grandmother. One of my friends committed suicide, and my sister married a homeless man that is now in jail for molesting little girls. So that was fun. So my whole brain is going, what the at this point. And so it was really my love for acting that saved me, because I was doing story time with my children, my students. Not my children, that I don't have kids yet, but and I was doing all the fun little voices for all the characters, and I was like, I'm just getting so much more fulfillment out of entertaining my students than actually teaching them. This is what I need to do with my life. I'm supposed to be an entertainer. Sure. And that's what I talked to my dad, and he's like, your mom and I always thought you should be an actor instead of a teacher, but we didn't want to tell you what to do with your life. So you go do what you want to do. Go ahead and finish up your degree so you have something to fall back on. But, go out there and pursue this. And that's what I did. So I saved up some money for a few years working in Alabama. Then I moved up to New York and just hit the ground running there. And I'm like, I waited tables for about 13 years doing, side acting jobs here or there. I toured with How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the musical, for 5 tours. And that was a lot of fun. I was the understudy for the Grinch in that. And our Grinch was the amazingly talented Stephen Carl, who was Robbie Rotten from the show Lazy Town.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Okay. And so, I was always a physical comedian too, but I was never professionally trained in it. I just learned from watching the greats in films and TV shows and stuff like that, all the way back to like Chaplin and Harpo Marx and Mr. Bean and all that kind of stuff. But I never had any formal training in that. And Stefan was, formally trained in physical comedy and clowning. And so he was able to really take me aside as his understanding. He was like, Dave, what you're doing is fantastic, but this is what makes it that much better. And he taught me things, and I was just able to learn from watching him for all those years. And I applied that to what I do now. It's just like you can actually watch my performance as art and look at some videos of like Robbie Rotten, and you'll probably see some similarities in physicality and stuff like that.
Cool.
Because that's what I did. Is like as soon as I got cast as art, I called Stefan up on the phone. It's like, Bud, I just got cast in this silent clown role. And it's like, because he had that same love for silent comedy like I did. So we used to geek out to like the Marx Brothers and Mr. Bean and all that. And so he was excited for me, and he gave me some tips and everything like that. And unfortunately, we lost him shortly after Terrifier 1 came out to cancer. But the good thing was he was still able to see the movie and everything like that. So I was really happy, and he was excited for it. He was actually trying to, because he lived in Iceland at the time, and he was really trying to help me on the international market there. But then he got, that's when the cancer really got bad for him and stuff like that. But it was, but it's like I wouldn't be where I am without him. So I consider him my Socrates of comedy.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love that.
I like to think I'm carrying the torch for him, because that man was so amazingly talented. He was just unbelievable. Just a powerhouse of talent, and he was just taken from the world way too soon. It's just not fair.
Yeah.
It never is. Yeah. Well, I guess to kind of play off that, you mentioned art. So again, I think a lot of the horror fans who might find this podcast and know who you are will know you as Art the Clown and Terrifier. But what was that experience like? First auditioning? Give us kind of the early inception of how Terrifier came to be.
Yeah, that was a crazy day, actually. It's funny too, because it has a Bubba Gump connection to it as well, because I was on my way to the audition and I bumped into Corey Blosey on the street, and he was on his way to his callback for Genie for Aladdin.
Hey,
and we're like, and so we're like, dude, what? Hey, he's like, hi, I'm going in for this audition for this clown role for this feature film. Who knows if anybody's going to see this thing? It's a low budget independent film, but hey, who knows? He's like, I'm going in for Genie. He's like, great. And it was like one of those like meeting of the minds type of things, like, because those are two things that did wonders for both of us.
Sure.
So I thought that was really cool. So so I go into the audition, and I go in there and I don't have a script, and I start to freak out, because this is my first time actually auditioning for a film role like this. And because I always did stage. I was trying to be on Broadway and everything like that. It's like,
sure,
this is crazy. Where's my script? And I see everybody else in that room's got scripts. I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna kill my agents. I'm like, this is horrible. And they call me in the room, and I'm like, I am so sorry. No one gave me a script. Can I just get one for a few minutes and look over it, and I'll come back in and I'll be ready for you guys? They're like, oh no, you don't need one. Art doesn't talk. I'm like, okay, cool. So,
sweet,
great.
What
do I do? And they're just like, just come up with a scene where you decapitate a guy and you're happy about doing it, and go. And I'm like,
best note ever.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's where I always tell other actors it's important to have some kind of, experience with improvisation, because you never know when you're going to get thrown into a moment like that. And I just had
100%.
to turn off my brain and go with it. And I came up with this wacky scene where I decapitate a guy after I sneak up on him, like very cartoonishly, and sawed off his head, picked it up, tasted the blood, didn't like the taste. So I took out a salt shaker and seasoned it, and liked the taste, and I just skipped out on my merry way. And that's what got me the role. They right there in the room, they said, hey, can you come in for a makeup test? I'm like, yeah, sure.
That's Yeah, well, I was going to say, like, that creativeness, that innovation sort of thinking of that on the spot, I'm sure set you apart from everyone.
I don't know where that came from. That was just
right.
Yeah,
Everyone else was just trying to play like a creepy clown, probably. But you're like, no, like let's have fun with this.
Yeah.
And we've seen there have been stories that have made their way out of movie theaters of art getting certain reactions out of people.
Yeah.
So with this first time of you doing what would become Art the Clown, what were the reactions like from people in the room? So obviously there weren't like the, you didn't have like the blood or the feces or things of that nature, but like in that moment, like what could you see any kind of look on their faces? Was there amusement? Was there like how are they acting?
Well, our producer, because it's just Phil, our producer, and Damien, our director, in the room, and like Phil's just sitting there, just shaking his head, laughing, and Damien's got his head down on the table, just laughing, and I'm just like, so I'm just kind of standing there for a second, just like, okay, I guess this is a good reaction. I guess this is good.
Yeah.
So so it's like, oh, good. That's good. That's the thing I like to see is like they're laughing with me instead of at me. So that's
sure. and so that you would go on to do the makeup test. How far along was the design of the character when they first put the makeup on you?
Yeah, that was pretty much. I mean, because there was already a film released before called All Hallows Eve with a different actor that played Art, Mike Gianelli, who played him in that one. So they already knew how the character was supposed to look, but they just wanted to see how the makeup fit on me because they were using Mike's mask for me. They also did a mold of my face, but the mold just did not come out to look as good as Mike's, we discovered later on, because we used that mold for one scene in the movie when the cops come and arrest me, and you can tell like my cheekbones are a little bit more pronounced and stuff like that. Just it looked a little bit different. It looked like Art had been in LA for too long. So
got some work done, baby.
Yeah, it's like but yeah, so yeah, they put the makeup on me and stuff like that, and they also gave me a final test. They're like, okay, we just ordered pizza. The pizza guys here, go answer the door as Art.
Oh,
and this is in Staten Island in the middle of the day, and so
that poor pizza guy.
Yeah, I just come to the door and I just stand there, just like, and he's just like,
I don't get paid enough for this.
Here's the money, and he's like, it's like. Just take the money, man.
I'm not allowed. I can't talk. I'm not allowed to talk.
It's just like, that was great. He's just like, what the just walks away.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I guess to go from there, then, like, you start filming the first movie, and what was that like? Was this like, what did I just get myself into?
Oh, yeah.
And then once you saw the first movie, I would assume like that first screening, you were probably like, wow, this is like light years beyond what I thought it was going to be. What was the reaction with the first time?
Very much. Also, people don't understand, like, we made this movie on $35,000, and like the locations we were filming in were horrible. Like, we had like no running water or anything like that. Like, that location you see in the movie, that was not set dressing. That's exactly how that bathroom looked. That place was disgusting.
Oh God!
It was just like, this is whoa, boy, what are we doing here?
You can't create that on a Hollywood set.
No. This was like guerrilla, filming in so many ways too. Because I think that place was being used like as an illegal chop shop or something like that too. This place was sketchy as anything. And I was like, that's the thing too. It's like we weren't produced by any studio, so it's like my whole entire time I was just like, oh no, I was just thinking this would be good for a resume. This would be a good, I could use this for a demo reel. This is good experience to learn what it's like to be on a set, and I can learn the lingo and all that kind of stuff. I didn't know what this was going to become. We had one of our producers that saw me the first time on set. He's like, oh wow, that is a look right there. That is something that people are gonna like. That's gonna grab people. But I'm like, okay, thanks, Larry. But I'm trying to be realistic here with my expectations because like we're making this on $35,000, and it's who knows if anybody's going to see these things except for maybe some of the fans that saw All Hallows Eve. So I was like,
Right.
So I didn't have the biggest expectations for it. I thought it was a cool idea, but I was just trying to be realistic with myself. So I was shocked with the reaction it got from people. I'm pleasantly shocked though. I was very happy, very, very happy. I mean, it changed my whole entire life trajectory. So that was great.
And then what's also kind of nice too is you can still you get to hide behind a mask. Like there's nobody's not gonna people likely aren't gonna walk down the street and be like, Art the clown, that's Art right there. Like you know what I mean? Or
has that happened? I know. I'm curious.
It is slowly starting to happen now, but it's like I'm still always amazed when someone recognizes me as this instead of Art, because I'm like, it's like that. I look completely different. I blend in with the crowd this way. But I kind of like that. I like having that kind of Doug Jones type of way about going about the world, where people know everything Doug Jones has been in. That man has been the amount of movies that man has been in, but people don't recognize him in public because he's always behind the makeup or something like that.
Right, sure.
So he's got that kind of anonymity. I mean, there are some people that recognize him now and stuff.
Oh like that, yeah.
He doesn't get
very
mobbed.
Slender, man. Yeah. Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But again, nobody's gonna walk down the street and go, Ape Sapien.
Right.
Like,
I mean, he and I have been in restaurants together, and we can sit there and eat, and no one bothers us. They don't even know it's us. So it's kind of it's nice because you can actually have that private time. You're not being. It's not, and that's what I prefer. I much prefer that kind of life instead of constantly, having to watch out for the paparazzi everywhere you go and stuff like that. It's like
that is until annoying. Dave. I was gonna say that's until the prequel when they do show your face before you become Art the Clown. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then people are like, "Oh, that's him." It's like,
no.
Have you started doing any like horror cons or anything like that? Have you been doing those? Yeah. So in that instance, in those instances, do you show up as Art or do you show up as yourself?
I do both. I do a photo op usually on the Saturdays in the full Art the Clown costume and stuff like that, which is fun. And I do that fully in character too. I don't talk or anything like that. So it's fun. I love doing that because it's so freeing because I can just around with people. I can mess with, and it won't necessarily be people at the convention because I'm usually in these hotels. So I will come out and just mess with people in the hotel that aren't even there for the convention, that have no idea this is going on. And I have scared the crap out of so many people, and I love it. It's so much fun. It's like, I had a great moment last year in just an elevator. Like one of the cleaning ladies just gets in the elevator with me, and she just sees me and she's like, she had hit like the highest floor, and she just gets out whenever the elevator stops. She's like, no. I was like,
that is, oh my gosh, that is.
I didn't even really do anything. I just looked at her. I was like, just nodded to her, and she's like, oh.
I saw one video, Dave. It was like you walking the floor of the con in costume, and I mean, people, your character is becoming so iconic. People are dressing as you at horror cons a lot, but it was you in the makeup walking through the con. It was one of those situations where nobody had any idea that you were the actual Art the Clown walking around all these cosplay people.
It's hilarious. I did like Monster Palooza here in LA about a month or so ago, and I'm walking by some people, and this one person goes, "Oh, that's a good Art." I had the hardest time not breaking character to go, yeah, you think so?
That's awesome, man.
It's like, I hope it dawned on him later on, like, oh shit, that was the real guy.
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing where apparently like Charlie Chaplin entered a lookalike contest and lost or something like that. So it's like one of those things. Like, this is great.
As we've said, Art has pushed boundaries.
Just a little.
I'd say so.
Just a smidge. And we've obviously got your. Has there been something that you have had to do that has made you feel uncomfortable? I mean, obviously, we know it's
Mm.
pretend. You're going in there, you're playing a character, you're in character, what have you. But has there ever been something where you're just like, do I have to do this?
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually in the first film, the whole Buffalo Bill scene for me, because that was I've always been very, very self-conscious about my body. I was that guy that would wear my shirt at the swimming pool because I was like I look like ET when I take my shirt off. I like one time when I was a camp counselor, and like I swear one of the other counselors put them up. It was the first day at the pool, first day of summer, so I had no tan at that point, and I take off my shirt and the kids all scream. I'm like, great, that's great for self-confidence. Thanks, guys. None of you get to swim today. No,
I hate hearing that.
Yeah. So I was very self-conscious about this, especially because this is my screen debut too. And I'm gonna have to show my naked butt on screen. I'm like, oh, God, no. Yeah. But I thought about it because it was like that wasn't even written in the script to be that way. I was just supposed to wear the body parts over my costume. And it was like 2 days before we filming, and Damien and I are like driving back from set, and he's like, Dave, I got a crazy idea that you're probably not gonna like, but I think it'll be really sick. And I'm like, what is it? And he lays it out to me and is like, you know what? Yeah, that's definitely sick and twisted and would definitely have an effect on people. So yeah, and I also looked at it as like, Catherine, who played Dawn in the movie. I'm like, if she's gonna go topless like she is, hanging upside down naked for this scene, if she can do that, I can do this. So yeah, okay, let's do this. That's gonna actually be a moment that people are gonna really, go, wow, this guy's messed up. So let's do this. And that was an interesting night. That was definitely an interesting night. It was also Samantha Scaffidi's first night really working with me on set. So her first real introduction to me is coming out to her, and I'm wearing a fake pair of boobs and a fake vajayjay, which most people don't notice because I have this thing glued to me, and I'm like, hi, I'm David, and these are my tits. And she's just this is awesome. And I'm like, yeah, Sam's going to be fun to work with. She was
a good sport.
Yeah, she was. Oh, we were making so many boob jokes that night and stuff like that. So we had a lot of fun. But it was like, I just felt sorry for our crew that night because they had to stare at my naked butt all night. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. You did not sign up for this. I know. I'm sorry. This is the last thing you want to see. So I was making butt jokes the whole entire time and stuff like that. And there's also another great story that goes along with that because like that day, Damien called me up. He's like, Dave, do you have a sock? And I'm like, oh, what? It's like a sock, something to cover up your junk so it's not showing on screen when you have the fake vajayjay on. I'm like, yeah, because that's just something I just have around my apartment.
Always.
It's like, just bring a tube sock with you. I'm like, okay, I'll bring a sock with me. So I show up and because I had to dress myself. I had to glue the apparatus down to me and stuff like that because no one wanted to do that.
Sure.
And I don't blame them. So I put the sock on, I come out and I just hear Damon's like, oh no, Dave. I'm like, what? He's like, why'd you bring a bright white tube sock? And I'm like, you said bring a sock.
Yeah, that's what I would have done.
Yeah, but that's gonna show up. it's like I'm sorry that this doesn't cover me up all the way. I'm like, I'm blessed.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He's like, yeah, you should have brought a black tube sock. I'm like, first of all, racist. Second of all,
wow, man.
Yeah. So it's like, oh man. So that's like actually one of the very few areas of the film where there's actually some CG because they had to digitally remove the tube sock from showing because you just saw this bright white theme down there at my crotch the whole entire time. So it's like, yep.
I love hearing stories like that.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of CG, because you spoilers for folks in the second film, you get a nice head chop towards the end there.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And there is some blood that is shooting out of your neck. That
Yeah.
were you squibbed, or how did
Yeah.
they do that? Was the How was that?
That was real. Yeah,
squibs
yeah,
almost
they-
don't like they're almost gone at this point.
This wasn't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
squibs. What they did, they put a plastic tube around my neck,
Mm-hmm.
and they had holes in it.
Cool.
And so they were literally behind me with just tubes and going
Cool.
blowing into the tubes to shoot the water, the blood out. The first time they did it, the blood's not shooting out the way they wanted it to. They're like, why is it not shooting? I'm like, oh, it's shooting. It's just shooting in because they had the hole sticking inside instead of outside. So all of that blood was going straight down into my costume, into my underwear. And it was about maybe 20 degrees that night in that room. So I was freezing. And I was like, yeah, let's get this the right way, guys.
Yeah. So and I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but how long did it take to reset after something like that? Because your costume's mostly white, and I assume that they wanted it to not look like it had blood.
Well, at least at that point, I'm supposed to be covered in blood anyway, so that didn't matter as much. It just sucked more that I just had blood all inside going all the way down. And but it took a little while to reset that, and we got it again, and we got it. It was funny too because we had one of our PA, Scott, was on there, and he had this jacket on. He's like, okay, well, I just don't want to get anything on this jacket. And then he just has a stand right where all of the blood went splat all over that jacket that he was trying not to get. I'm like, well, now you can sell that.
With Terrifier 2, Dave, I guess, we'll move chronologically. Terrifier 2 became like a big thing. Like I literally have a DVD of it if you're watching this. And you guys are seemingly with this franchise kind of going mainstream. So what is that like, moving from like this small little indie film and then word of mouth really gets Terrifier in the hearts, I guess, the minds, the eyes of horror fans?
That was crazy.
What was that like when you're now filming a sequel, as it were, on, I would assume, maybe a little bit more of a budget? And did you have any idea of how, I guess, big Terrifier 2 was going to be received by the public?
I felt like it would be because it was a damn good script, and what we had filmed was pretty damn good. I was like, this is a damn good movie. This is a fun movie. And we originally we didn't think we were going to have a theatrical release. We thought we were just going to have to go straight to DVD and Blu-ray again like we did on the first film. And then Cineverse came in, Bloody Disgusting, all of them came in, and it's like, hey, we want to put this in theaters. But they were only supposed to do it for like a limited run, like 3 days in 500 theaters nationwide. And so it's like, well, hey, cool. That's still great. At least, for 3 days, people can go out, see this in the theaters and stuff like that. That's cool. Because I was like, this is a movie that you need to see with an audience. This is one of those type of movies. And it's like, and I was always like saying to Damon, it's like, if we can just get this into theaters, it's going to blow up because that's what we need. That's that type of movie. The people are going to go nuts over this. And that's exactly what happened. And it just snowballed because all these people wanted that first night we went to a screening on Staten Island, and we just snuck into the theater to see how people responded. People were going nuts over it. It was a packed house, and we go to a bar afterwards, and he's checking out Twitter, and it's just everybody's getting out of the theaters nationwide, and everybody's just going crazy about it. And then you see all these people like, hey, we want to see this in our theaters. How can we make that happen? We're like, hey, talk to your local theater, see if they can get it. And that's what happened nationwide. People were like demanding it. And so they extended another week and more theaters. And that just happened week after week after week. It just kept going for 6 more weeks. And it just, then we had, TV shows talking about us, like The Talk and like Howard Stern and all that kind of stuff. Stephen King's tweeting about us. So it's like, this is absolutely insane. It just took a whole new life of its own. And so that definitely helped us going forward. It's like, okay, cool. Now we can definitely make part 3.
Sure. And now there's like Art the Clown merch in Walmart. Like,
yeah,
like,
this is like, that was great. They just
literally
Funko Pops the other day, and like,
I went to before we got on here, I was like, I'm gonna just stop into Forbidden Planet, the comic book shop. We have one here in Scotland, and I just moseyed in there and be like, wonder if there's any horror stuff here. And of course, Like I go in there and boom, there's Art the Clown. So I mean, not only nationally but internationally, you guys have you've hit a pulse. I think people were craving a new slasher film that really pushed the boundaries, that wasn't under like studio restrictions and all that stuff. But
I think that's a big part. I think
you guys did something different.
I think that's a big, huge part of it is we weren't under studio restrictions, because that's something we almost dealt with going forward with part 3, because we had all the studios coming at us.
Sure.
We had like all the big name ones. You name them, they came at us. They were all throwing money at us, but they all wanted creative control. And Damien was like, they're not going to even let us film the first 5 minutes of this film the way I wanted to film.
Right.
He's like, there's absolutely no way. No way. And he even asked his fans, like, would you rather see Terrifier have like, you know, a huge budget, or would you rather have a smaller budget but still do what we want to do? Yeah. And it was unanimous. There wasn't a single person that go with the studios. Every single fan out there said, do it your way. Do it your way. And Cineverse came back in and was like, hey, we'll give you the money. And they gave us not as much as like Hollywood was giving us, but they're like, hey, here's like $3.5 million.
Boom.
We believe in you guys.
Come on.
And it's like, and that's what we did. And that we were able to make the movie we wanted to make. And I'm so happy, because this movie would not be nearly the part 3 would not be nearly as good as if we had a Hollywood studio over us telling us what to do, because we would have had to sell out to the studios. We would have had to appease their boards and everything. They would have neutered that movie. They would have absolutely neutered it. And that's not what this movie's supposed to be. We're supposed to be the punk rock of horror. Right. And that's how we look at it. We're the punk rock of horror. We do what we want to do, and you know, to hell with everybody else. We're going to make the type of movie we want to see. And I think that's starting to catch on now with the rest of Hollywood, because I think they got a little scared from us. They're like, oh God, this is what people want to see. And now you're starting to see more movies being made where they're taking bigger risk. I mean, I didn't get to see it yet, but I've heard great things about a violent nature. I did see the big kill scene everybody's talking about. That I was like, oh, good. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. People are taking those risks again. They're going, seeing how far they can go with things. Like that's what's supposed to be with this genre. Like horror and comedy are supposed to be the two genres where you're supposed to push the envelope, see how far you can go with things. And it's like, and I think that's what's been happening with both those genres in the past 10, 20 years. Is they've been neutered by the studios. That's why you don't see any good comedies in theaters anymore. It's not like how I grew up. Basically, every year there were like 10 plus comedies every single year coming out that were all just legendary, all classics now. I can't name a good comedy I have seen in a theater in a decade. Yeah, I think one of the last ones I saw was Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, studios are afraid to even make them nowadays too, I think. So I think it's good. And you are right. I think horror has always been the genre that is willing to go there and push boundaries. And you are seeing things like A24 or Neon, like taking some chances and risks. And I think they have things, directors and filmmakers and actors like you guys to thank for that. So there's clearly a market. There's clearly an audience.
The fans want it. The fans want it, and it's like that's why I'm so happy to see now other new icons being born, like especially with Ty West and all that, Maxine, all that, all Mia Goth's work, and so I mean, I'm like, this is great. I'm especially seeing a female horror icon coming out now. I'm like, that's great. I love that. I love that. Let's bring more diversity to all this instead of just big guys, and stuff like that. Let's have more unique characters out there.
For sure. So Terrifier 3, I have to ask, crossing over, we'll get to the wrestling guys, we promise. Crossing over, you have a wrestler in Terrifier 3 who, we'll just say it, Chris Jericho has been cast in Terrifier. What was that?
He made the list.
He made ooh, good right. Swish.
Yes.
What was that experience like working with a professional wrestler, I guess?
Oh God, Chris was great, man. That was such a surreal moment. I even had a moment where I'm like doing something to his face. Like I just got my hand in his face and I'm smearing blood on his face. I'm like, what the hell am I doing right now? Because inside my head, I'm like, this is so surreal. This is like, and I even said that to him, like, dude, he's like, same here, man. This is like, it's like, because I'm also like, dude, I'm sorry to have to be doing this too. He's like, it's all good. But I'm also thinking like, yeah, Chris has actually gone through much worse in the ring. So, if anybody can deal with the craziness that we're doing on set, it would be Chris Jericho. Any wrestler would be. It's like, oh yeah, he's fine. He's fine. But yeah, Chris is great. He was having a blast, man. He was just like, it's it's just surreal. It's like because that was the thing that was like crazy about part 3. We were able to have a lot of like celebrities in this movie. And they were all just like, they approached us basically. We didn't really have to go to them. They were like, we want to be in Terrifier 3. And there were some people we wanted to have in, and then some things wouldn't allow them to be in the movie, either their agents or something like, oh, we don't want you doing horror movie and stuff like that. But like we had different versions of the script because of that, because we had some there. I wish I could say who it was, but we had this one person that was like, oh my God, I would have loved to have done this thing because it was hysterically funny. It would have been a lot of fun, but it's like there people were just like, oh, sorry, but I mean, I still got to work with some legends, not just Jericho, but like we have like they've just recently announced like Clint Howard was in it.
Oh man, that's like, awesome.
Yeah. Clint, I mean, he's Hollywood royalty, man. Yes. I'm just like, this is it was him and Daniel Roebuck.
Really?
And another actor. They haven't announced him yet either, but it was like being able to work with those guys. I was like, this is insane, because these are guys I've watched in movies and TV shows my whole entire life, and now I'm actually working with them. They are coworkers now. We are creating something together, and that week was probably one of my favorite weeks on set. I was like, of anything I've ever done, I was in heaven. I was having so much fun, especially with Danny. I mean, he's a stage veteran too, so he's a comedy guy too, so he knows about that whole back and forth, the tug of war that you have with your colleagues with comedy. That's how comedy works.
Right.
And he knows how to be a really good, straight guy, and he knows how to throw you material. And he was constantly just making up new lines and just throwing things at me. And we were just having a blast together. And I was like, this is fantastic.
How I'm glad you mentioned that. How much of these movies is improvised, Dave? I mean, I'm sure a lot of it has to be scripted because of the gruesome nature of the special effects and those scenes. But other than that, like, how much of this are you guys going in being like, let's just see what happens? Or does that change from movie to movie?
It changes more from scene to scene. It depends on what the scene's calling for. So like there's certain scenes where it's like basic arts going around and messing around with people in public. Those are the scenes where I usually get to improv a lot.
Gotcha.
But it's like when it comes to the kill scenes, there's sometimes some improv involved, but a lot of times there's like, okay, this is how it needs to be, especially with the fight scenes and stuff like that. That's when it's all like, okay, boom, 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 boom. But I still have those moments where I can improv my reactions to things.
Okay.
And sometimes things just happen organically too. I don't even realize what I've done, and I see Damien just dying laughing in the corner. I'm like, oh, I must have done something with my face and didn't realize it. So it's like,
I love that.
That's how like the whole O face came about in part 2 when I'm at the counter when I'm doing that was just I didn't even realize they had done that, and the whole entire crew was just dying hysterical. It's like they're like, Dave, do that again. That was hysterical. We're keeping that. I'm like, okay, cool. I had no idea what I did, but then they played back. I'm like, oh, that was great. Okay, sure.
Done.
Sweet. But I love those moments. I love that. And there's definitely some scenes in part 3 where there's a lot of improv. I got to see one of them the other day, and like Damien's like, this is probably some of your best work you've ever done. It's just like, this is
yay.
Ooh.
That's
exciting.
Like that.
That was a fun day too, because I had basically an audience in front of me too. So it was a big crowd scene. So I really got to just ham it up for people. Like, this is fantastic.
Damien seems like a really cool dude. From this would be
so
your
cool.
fourth movie, I should say. I know you guys have worked on another film as well, which we'll get to later. But what is it like working with Damien? I would assume you guys are like this.
Oh yeah, we're like brothers now. I mean, it's like that whole it's kind of like that Tim Burton, Johnny Depp type of relationship. It's like we've worked together. We know each other so well. So like we can have he can give me directions and just say certain words to me, and I know exactly what it means, and everybody else is like, huh? But it's like we're just so in sync with each other. Sure. It's great. I mean, Damien, he's such an actor-friendly director too, because he has his ideas, but he also knows to allow his actors to experiment and do their own thing and see what they can come up with as well. And he's willing to hear new ideas and stuff like that. So he's great. He's also one of those directors. He gets to know every single person on that set, not just the cast, but all the crew. He goes out of he appreciates everybody that works on these movies, and he goes out of his way to make everybody feel like they're part of the family and stuff like that. That's what I think has been cool about working on these films. It's like we all become a family. It's not just the cast; it's the crew too. We all bond together by the end of the movie. We're all very close and stuff like that, which is a lot of fun. So it's a great environment to work in, because we're doing some really crazy things. Sometimes working in very miserable conditions and stuff like that. Sure. But at the end of the day, we're having fun. Yeah. It translates to screen. It's like you can tell when you watch certain movies that they had a fun time making it. And I think when you see part 3, you're definitely going to tell that we had a lot of fun making this one.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah. All right. Since we're talking about fun, we did bring you here to talk about wrestling as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yes. Oh, I know you did. So we had you watch a match. We figured, because you have your experience with Art the Clown, you also played the Joker at one point for
yes,
film.
Yes.
So cool. Yep, which is very exciting. So you know clowns.
I know clowns.
You know clowns. So we had you watch a match from wrestling's most infamous clown, DOINK the Clown. DOINK the Clown taking on Crush in 1993, I think it was. We got Jerry Lawler and Vince McMahon on commentary with Macho Man.
Oh my God, that commentary was great.
Oh my! It's
commentary. The commentary was cracking me up. It's like, because they're pointing out very obvious things, and they're just like, because you could just tell they're like, okay, we got to say something. So he used a fist. Yeah, a fist. He took a fist to the face. Yeah, he took a fist to the face. I'm like, this is great. I love it.
Are you a big wrestling fan at all, or were you a big wrestling fan?
I was back in the day, like the golden age of wrestling, and also like back in like my college days, especially my first 2 or 3 years in college, my roommate Chad, and we were best friends in high school, and then we roomed together in college. We would watch Raw every single Monday night and stuff like that. That was our thing. We would do on Monday nights. Because we would get back in from class and eat dinner, and like, okay, we just got to unwind, watch them, just turn our brains off, watch people get the crap out of each other.
Sure.
Oh
yeah.
Do you have a favorite wrestler?
Oh God. I mean, of course, Hulk Hogan was one of my. I always really liked Andre the Giant too back in the day. Too. So it's like
very
underrated pick.
Yeah, I mean, he's just amazing to watch anyway. But
so
cool. Sting was always fun to watch too. I thought this. Of course, Jericho. I got to put him in there too. So
yeah.
And he's going to be mad if you don't.
Yeah. And one of the main reasons I asked too is because when you're talking about the commentary, I don't know if you knew this, Vince McMahon, when he finally, thankfully, stopped doing commentary, would be in people's ears telling them what to say. And you can just kind of tell in this match, especially, that he thinks he is just dropping like the best one-liners and like the funniest stuff. And like it's
just like
I was watching. I was like, oh, of course this guy would go on to micromanage every announcer that he had control over.
Bless his heart.
Something like that. I'm going to give a little context to the match, Andrew, if you don't mind. So we had DOINK the Clown, who was played by Matt Osborne. He was a veteran wrestler who actually had a good career, but suffered during the WWE's gimmick era of the late 80s and early 90s, which would be a clown. You also had plumbers. You had dentists. Like, it was the career gimmick time of
Iron
WWE.
Sheik.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, just insane
Interesting
stuff.
times. Yeah. So we had a clown, which could either be really funny or really terrifying, as we have seen with the work you've done. And this guy, Matt Osborne, I thought he did a great job going into this character. And he is pretty iconic. Everyone knows who Doink the Clown is, even if they don't know who Osborne is. So yeah.
And we get to see things kick off too with him doing some clown antics by getting 16 versions of himself up on screen and laughing maniacally. Yeah, exactly. So as someone who has gotten into their own clown antics, how would you rank those clown antics that he started the match with?
No, see, I like that. That's what you got to do. It's like, because I feel like if you're gonna have a clown character, it's got to be someone that's gonna. It's definitely they got to be more of a heel type of character, I would say.
Sure,
they got to be, or like if they're because they got to be like that Bugs Bunny type of just trickster, pulling pranks, whatever, because that's how they should be able to get the upper hand on their opponent. Is like they're doing things they shouldn't be allowed to do. It's like, and that's what I liked about it. Like how he's using the screens to distract Crush, and he sneaks up on him. I'm like, see, that's how you do it. That's what you do. Then at the end, of course, with another Doink coming in, I'm like, that's great. So there you go. There you go. He'd already set up there were other Doinks, so there you go. It's like, you do that. You do that. It's like, I do wish though during the course of the match that he was doing more things to to prank and stuff like that. But it was a great to start it off and finish it, but they needed some stuff in the middle too. Like like when he went to do when he clotheslined him, if he had ducked underneath or done something to do something like that to
it was
turn
a
the
pretty
tables on him.
straightforward match.
It really was.
I was surprised. Yeah.
Maybe get out of hand buzzer. Have somebody give you a pie, something. A pie that you find out has like a hammer in it or something.
Right.
I don't know. Come on.
Well, he did splash him with something at the beginning. I don't know
right
what.
At the beginning.
But we don't know what that was.
Yeah.
No, and the announcers of all the things, they're just like, oh, he punched him. But he does something we cannot see. Crickets. They don't say
it's like that would have worked much better with the pie or something like that. Or just seltzer to the face or something
but
like
you literally took the word right out of my mouth. I was like, we gotta get one of those big seltzer things. Like, and then reveal that there's like pepper flakes in it or something.
Yeah.
My
god.
Something like that. But I liked it. But I just felt like in the middle of the match, there even if it was just taunting or something like that, just like throwing some cartwheels or something like that in there, just like laughing at him. Something. Now, I did like how he kept going for the nuts, though. He just that's like
that is a heel move.
That's good.
Now, like obviously, you have to do some maneuvering as Art in your costume, and we see him doing it, but it's a little bit more like he's wearing basically a singlet with sleeves and legs, some straightforward spandex. How? And I assume it's probably a pretty easy answer to this, but how movable is your costume, and did you ever have to make any adjustments to make it more movable?
Yeah, the costume, like the body part of the costume, that's very easy to move in. That's something that they've made sure of. It's very loose fitting because it also makes me look more gaunt when it's just kind of hanging off of me.
Sure.
But I would say that the part that's a pain in the ass are the shoes at times, because I can only move so fast in the shoes. And so it's like in part 2, we actually filmed me chasing Allie up the stairs of her house up into her room. And the first few tries are like, Dave, you got to get faster. She's getting away from you. I was like, I am going as fast as I can in these shoes. It's like, you try running up stairs like this with shoes this big. You try it. And so we did one take where I was wearing tennis shoes. And they're like, oh, shit, Dave, slow down. Because I was already on her like 4 or 5 steps up. I'm like, totally. It was the shoes.
Yeah.
I am fast. I am a very fast runner. So it's like, it's the shoes that were slowing me down. And I had to do that again in part 3 at one point the shoes, and I was like, oh god, oh god, oh god. I was like, why do I have to run up and down stairs in these shoes?
For part 4, we get him in some Converse that have his face on them. It could be a very Art the Clown move.
Very meta. I love that. We're getting into like Freddy Krueger New Nightmare territory.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Aware of how he's become iconic.
Look, that's good territory to be in.
Yeah.
It
Keep
is.
going.
I love that movie. I know you do too.
Oh yeah. It's actually, I thought New Nightmare was really creative.
Oh, so good.
I love
So
that.
good.
One of my favorites of all time.
Yeah.
Like one of the best meta movies, one of the best takes,
Yeah.
one of the best reinventions of a character while still keeping, just incredible stuff. Yeah, an absolute favorite.
Loved it. I guess to get back to the match a little bit, Dave, we're talking about sort of the restrictions with wearing like clown makeup and costumes. What did you think of how he did? I mean, a lot of these wrestlers, you look at someone like Kane, you know, Undertaker's infamous brother, who was always seen in a mask until later on in his run. But
because the burns were psychological.
Yes, they were all in his mind, Andrew.
That was the excuse. Yep.
So stupid. I can't imagine having to wrestle like with something over your face the entire time and sort of do these moves that could literally kill you if you do them wrong.
Oh yeah, I look at Mick Foley. My God, when he was doing all that stuff, it's like, oh my God, yeah. It's like how did that? Because that's cutting off a lot of his vision.
Absolutely.
Too. So it's like, oh my God, Mick, how did you do this?
Right. Yeah. And what's interesting too is it's like because he's got the face paint, which we see come off throughout the match. And then it's like a head wrap almost that goes under his chin.
It's like basically one of those what I wear for art too is a balaclava.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Yeah. So but you said it's a mask though on the front, right?
Right.
So it's not as much like a makeup aspect, and there's not really any makeup going on aside from maybe like the eyes or. Yeah.
It's the makeup's on that mask, but it's glued to my face. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
But it's foam latex, so it's very light and breathable and stuff like that. So I forget I'm wearing it at times.
Cool. So is it on there? I assume it's on there pretty sturdy, but if there are instances where they have to be like, guys, we got to reset, it's like a little crooked.
It's not really that. It's like the mouth, especially because the first two films we were using a gelatin mask instead of the foam latex, and that would disintegrate if I got moisture. So you sometimes see behind the scenes photos of me with Q-tips in my nose because I was trying to keep my nose from running into my mask because it was really cold. And so it's like, because that's when we'd like, okay, we have to stop for about an hour so he could fix what was all broken and stuff like that. And then there was this like one time we were filming in part 2, it was in the summer, and I was sweating so much, and the bottom part of my mask came unglued and it was just like hanging off. So I had like 2 jaws at one point.
Ooh,
I was like, oh God,
keep it in the movie.
Oh God. But yeah, the foam latex is so much easier. I've not had any problems with that. So it's great.
So that came with doing the third movie and having a nicer budget. Awesome.
Yeah. Cause we had Christian Tinsley's team that came in, did my makeup. For part 3, they're award-winning makeup team. They did like the Passion of the Christ and stuff like that. So they're
used to blood. They're used to
blood.
Yeah.
I mean, Damien was amazing himself, but oh my God, some of the things they built for part 3, I'm just like, these things were cool. There were some really cool things. Things.
Well, I guess, getting back to that, I love in this match, like that he sweats so much that the makeup comes off. It shows how
realistic.
hard he's working. Yeah. And I'm sure you've dealt with that as well. But by the end of the match, it's like I'm just watching this Matt Osborne guy wrestle, doing this green wig, maniacal laugh in this green wig. It was just something so absurd to it all. Not just the fact that we're watching Doink the Clown, who was coming off of a WrestleMania match. Mind you, this was a rematch with Crush. But the fact that, by the end of the match, we're just seeing a guy, just a normal guy in the ring wrestling. Yeah.
It's like, I guess a much bigger guy, too.
Yeah, Sure.
Yeah.
I also loved his laugh, and I loved like I feel like I just wanted him to have like a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Like, there was
Oh,
something,
you
know what I mean? Like just something
like
make him
shakes
look
the
a little,
clown type of thing.
yeah, sure,
Yeah.
yeah. Like he felt dirty, even though he didn't look dirty, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
Like he's basically wearing a Party City getup, and yet like he
Yep.
laughed and he's like
A
looking at him.
cigarette or a cigar or something, just like,
Ooh,
yeah, doink.
Yeah.
It's like Krusty the Clown.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I
Sure.
knew we could get Krusty the Clown into this
Yeah, there you
conversation.
go.
Yeah, there's always a way. Yeah.
Andrew's
Muck
like the
luck.
number one Simpsons fan of all time.
Let's not. Okay, relax.
Okay.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, let's sort of fast forward. Like we said, this is kind of a straightforward match. Crush ended up winning by a count out. Doink,
that's
unfortunately,
bullshit.
got kind of right. Yeah, I was kind of let down by that. I almost wish I picked.
I didn't even like. They were just like, you didn't see the countdown. I'm like, no, you didn't see the countdown. What the?
Yeah.
The ref goes,
Yeah.
you win.
Yeah, it's over. It's over.
No, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was interesting too because he. Like they were mentioned how Crush was going to be fighting Yokozuna for the title on the upcoming Monday, and I was just like, I don't think he's going to win that match. I mean, we know notoriously he's not going to win, but I was like, if you're going to have him go up against the title and then not even have like a clean victory against another gimmick, like I don't think he's going to beat Yokozuna.
But again, we should mention Dink the Clown did come out in this match, and we got. We got Dink and Doink.
Yeah,
so I mean,
and
at
they
least
look
they're
so much alike too. I was like,
they
wow,
really
they
did.
really do look alike.
Yeah. Real like body types and everything. It was weird.
Idea for Terrifier 4. We need to get a an art and an ort, I guess. I don't know. We got to get another
art and ort.
Yeah.
Excuse me, my son is also named Ort. There you go. There's a Simpsons reference for you.
Yeah. Good job.
Oh yeah. So that's the match. I mean, that's I would feel remiss if we didn't have Art the Clown on a wrestling podcast and ask about the most infamous wrestling clown.
It's
thank
crazy.
you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
This was also our excuse to just talk to you about Art the Clown. Let's be completely honest.
I have to say though, it's been really interesting just seeing how much like the wrestling world and the horror world kind of like collide a lot.
Dude, it's awesome. I mean, Chucky has hosted Monday Night Nitro and NXT like recently. He's hosted wrestling recently. So I think that tells you what needs to happen next.
It's
like,
crazy. That'd be wild.
And now, Dave, I don't know if you know this, but there's a group now in the WWE called the Wyatt Six, and they're like totally horror themed. Like you've got like super creepy dudes with like sledgehammers and machetes and like a ring-esque girl, and there has always
I've
been
seen some of that
crossover
footage because people sent me some of that. I'm like, oh wow, they're actually going with gore and stuff like that. I'm like, that's freaking sweet.
Well, and they're moving to Netflix next year, and the people are already like they are going to for Monday Night Raw will be on Netflix starting in 2025, and they've already pretty much made it clear that they're like, we're gonna start like allowing some more adult things back into the show.
Cool,
pushing Terrifier territory.
Well, I know there are a lot of like the wrestlers out there are huge fans too. I know like the Bunny, she's a huge Terrifier fan, so we're like friends on Instagram and stuff like that. That's something crazy. I've got to know a lot of these wrestlers through the conventions as well. Like Mick Foley's become a friend and stuff like that. Of course, Jericho. It's like this is wild getting to know these guys in that capacity.
Imagine.
I met the Undertaker last year too, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I felt short compared to him. I was like, "He is huge." It's like it's one thing to see him on screen, but see him in real life, I'm like, "Oh my god, this man is massive." He is.
I think we could also, if you know Mick now too, we can have some kind of Art and Santa Claus crossover because he spent a whole year as Santa Claus. Ultimate battle of good and evil. I think that has to happen.
That could totally happen. Well, like it was fun because we were at a convention one time together, and he's like, "Hey, my sons are here; they're huge fans. Is it okay if we come over and get a picture with you?" I'm like, "Oh, of course, dude, bring him over. So like he brought his whole entire family over. He's like trying to pay me for it. I'm like, dude, keep your money, man. Keep your money. This is an honor.
Can I take a picture with you now?
Yeah,
That's what I would
exactly.
say,
It's like,
yeah.
I'm like, I will sign whatever you want for you. I'm like,
Sure.
dude.
Well, two things, Dave. Two things. I know we're going to start to wrap up, and we should say Chris Jericho actually played Doink the Clown at one point. 11
True.
wrestlers.
That's true.
11 wrestlers assumed Doink throughout the year.
Yeah, he did it on like a Monday
I
Night Raw, I
didn't
think.
realize that.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to talk to him about that then.
Yeah,
Yep.
a little trivia
Yep.
there. The second thing is not just wrestlers you've met, but like you've met icons. You've met like I'm forgetting his name at the moment, but the guy who plays Jason, right? In Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah, Kane. Oh yeah, we've been having a
Kane
prank
Hodder.
war. We've been pranking each other for the past year. We've had it. He started it. We were up in Canada. He got me with his fart spray when I was at my table. And so I got him back. We're at another convention. I put a fart machine inside of his trash can next to his table while he's signing. And I put between the can and the liner. So if he would look in, he didn't see it. And I had the remote to it. And I'm just, when people are at his table, he's just getting pissed off. Because, people are like going,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he's like looking over at me, and I would sometimes get a remote to my assistant, so she's hitting it while I'm signing autographs. He's like, "How the hell is he doing this? I know it's him. I know it's that clown." And we've just been going back and forth, and like he's notorious for pranking people, but no one has ever pranked him back because they're all afraid to, because he's a very intimidating man.
Sure.
He's huge. He's strong
jacked,
as an ox. Yeah, he's jacked. And we had dinner together last year, and he's like, dude, thank you. He's like, I have been waiting for someone to finally come back at me with some pranks. It's like, of course, man. It's like, this has been so much fun. Right? Like, I
Leave
love
it to
this.
a clown. Yeah.
If you had told me when I was 13 years old watching those movies that I would be hanging out with this dude and doing this kind of stuff, I was like, oh, but you are full of crap. It's just like, it's amazing. It's just like, this is... No, he's just Kane.
Yeah.
Cool.
Life is
Kane.
crazy, dude. Life is crazy. You never know what can happen. And it all started with a audition of you going in and not having a script to read, right? I love it. I love it. Well, tell us a little bit more if you can. I know you can't share much about Terrifier 3, but has there been like any release dates or anything like that set? Okay.
Yeah, we're coming out in theaters October 11th.
Awesome.
So it's getting a big theatrical release, bigger than it was for part 2. So that's gonna be great. And it's a Christmas movie too, to those that didn't know. So Christmas is definitely coming early this year. So it's big. It's a big movie. It's very big. It's like I think especially some wrestling fans are going to be really happy with like the ending to it too, because we had a great stunt coordinator come in and choreograph this amazing fight scene. That's in this movie. I think it's really going to solidify Sienna as a truly badass final girl going forward.
Awesome.
I've like she's like Ellen Ripley level, just like badass in this movie. And it's like we had that's the scene that I was so happy about filming. It's such a great scene in this movie. And there's so many other great scenes, but that one I was really happy with. It's like I have a stunt double that made me look like a badass. But I got to do a lot of my own stunts in it. But like my stunt double Bobby came in and made me look like a badass. So that was fun too. So it's like
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. We got also an appetizer coming out even earlier. That's gonna get people stoked that a lot of us on the Terrifier team worked on. It's called Stream. And they just put out the teaser trailer for that yesterday, and it's coming out August 21st to theaters. And we have a lot of horror legends in that movie as well. We have like, Felissa Rose, Dave Sheridan, Daniel Roebuck, Terry Alexander, Danielle Harris, Dee Wallace, Jeffrey Combs, Tony Todd. There's even more people I can't even name yet. It's just like, we filmed that during COVID. It's taken a while for it to come out, but now it's coming out now, and it's fun. I'm one of the killers in that one as well, and we're hoping this is going to be another franchise as well. It's a fun concept, and the Damien did the practical effects. The kills are pretty gnarly in this one too. So it's gonna be fun. That's coming out in theaters too. So August 21st.
Awesome.
So everybody's got to check that one out too.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Congratulations.
And we'll put
Dave.
links for everything, Dave.
Yeah.
Links in the show notes.
Yeah.
But before we go, man, any last words on where we can find everything you're up to? Do you have any events coming up? Anything like that? Here, the floor is yours, man.
Yeah, you can find me on like pretty much most of the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads under David Howard Thornton, under some form of that name, I guess. Now other stuff, I got tons of conventions coming out. I can't remember all of them right offhand, but I basically every single weekend between end of July through November, I'm going to be at conventions. So keep your eyes out. I know on Facebook there's Art the Clown Appreciation Society page. They post all the convention dates and stuff like that. So you can check all that stuff there. I usually post like a week or so before a convention just to let people know. But yeah, I'm going to be busy. But I'm also about to start filming my bit for a Screamboat that's coming out early next year as well. So I'm going to ruin everybody's childhood. So I'm playing Willie in that. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Amazing.
Oh boy. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, I mean, we got to thank you, man, for coming on, talking
thank you so much.
everything Art the Clown, but also reviewing DOINK the Clown with us.
Yes, that was fun.
Couldn't think of a better guest to have for a DOINK the Clown match, right, Andrew?
Had to happen. Yep. As always, if you want to find us, we're at Some Ring Pod on Twitter, at Somewhere Ring Pod on Instagram, somewhereinthering.com, patreon.com/somewhereinthering. Ryan and I are on the socials as well. I wrote and directed a short religious horror film called Pay the Tithe that you can watch on Vimeo if you'd like. So please do that. And listen to Somewhere in the Skies as well if you want to hear more talk about UFOs with our boy Ryan. And here's some more from Chris Jericho too. So come on.
That is true.
Crossovers going.
We do. I've had the pleasure of being on Chris Jericho's podcast a few times now, talking UFOs.
Yeah.
So I either got to get him on Somewhere in the Skies or Somewhere in the Ring. I wonder which he'll do first. That'll be the real question. But
you should do a joint one with Chris and I on like either one, especially because I got a lot of stuff to say about UFOs as well. So
there we go.
Consider it done. Consider it done. Now we just got to get Jericho on board. But I know between the two of us, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
But Dave, before you go, we like to let our guests ring the bell to get us somewhere out of the ring. So whatever that means to you, pull out that inner actor and Art the Clown and ring that bell, brother. Get us out of here.
All right. I got a weapon nearby, so I can just like.
That's amazing.
I was hoping it was going to be silent. I really was. So thank you. That was. I was like, he's going to do it. He's going to be quiet. Well done, Dave. Thank you so much, dude. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for being so open and kind to us. We really appreciate it.
This has been Somewhere in the Ring. Thank you for listening. Subscribe wherever you get your pods, and be sure to rate and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever possible. We'll see you again soon, Somewhere in the Ring.
This has been a production of LIONSGATE Sound. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever possible. Thank you for listening.